Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party. I tried to get Rhett to come in here, but she did not want to come in. But my wife had just fed her, and she got her fresh nuts. She gets like, I don't know, 6 to 8 peanuts every day. We can't give her more than that because then she likes to feed them to the dogs, and then the dogs make a big mess on the floor. But and then has like other seeds and other mixes of stuff that she eats on a daily basis, and she just didn't. I guess because she had her fresh nuts, she didn't want to go out. I see that my sound is coming in. The little graph down here. I have this little graph that you can see, and sometimes I forget to look. So um, I guess I was a lot more tired on Friday than I thought I was. Um, just one of those things. You can't always tell when you're wound up. You think you uh, you think you're, perfectly fine, but you're actually very stressed out and upset and you don't know it. And then, it sort of just bubbles up. Fortunately, I didn't have any real bad outbursts or anything at work, but it's one of those things you just can't tell. It's like, but anyway, so I am, a bit befuddled. Every once in a while, so I have this foundational understanding of how the web works and how HTML works and JavaScript and all those things, right? They're, it's this foundational scheme that I've kind of built up over the decades, and it's just how I think things work. But, it's definitely not right. And it may have been right at one point. It could be wrong today. It could be right. But I've been running into this issue with trying to load a video into a video player. And I've never really had this sort of problem before. Usually I can either like just change the way that I reference it and it figures it out, but it's not working. Everything I've ever done in the past just isn't working now. Now I remember, so to go back, okay, so there's this great book, or a great series of books called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, and it's really great. What my favorite thing about it, maybe it's not sort my favorite thing about the book is that they sort of delve into a lot of issues around abstractions. Um, just like things that you're gonna, whenever you become really deeply invested in abstractions, sometimes you can get a disconnect from the realities, and then when you get that disconnect from realities, many times you can go on a long time with those disconnects and everything just works perfectly for you, and then some small thing changes and then like it all unwinds on you and you have to kind of rebuild. And if you want to be a software developer for more than, let's say, 6 years tops, you're going to have to get comfortable with sort of all of your foundational understandings becoming um, like F12, becoming um, stale. Basically, sooner or later, everything you believe is going to be wrong. Now, or even worse, maybe some small piece of it is wrong, and try to dig that little piece out and fix that little piece is so much harder in an ocean of correct things. So that's where I'm at now with this video player, right? So like if I go here on my local, I believe it'll work, right? How to use and the video loads. But if I go in either of these, it doesn't. Now there is some clues as to what's going on, and one of them is that when I'm over here at Angular Web Analyzer API, if we analyze the network tab, what we see is that we actually get a 400 for this API, but then for some reason it looks on the root of the directory and it loads the JavaScript. So that is clearly something that the folks over at GitHub um, implemented into their browser in order to sort of accommodate these single page applications. So then, like if you look at mine, at I like email, what happens is the browser, like when it asks for something at this API endpoint, which there's not even a folder, that folder doesn't even exist, it serves up the correct API. It returns a 200. So this one returned a 404 and then just went on with its life and and delivered everything. This one delivered a 200 and and moved forward. Now, the thing is the reason that we ever got here is because in here, when I was coding and stuff, I wanted to always be able to like reload the same page. So I didn't want to have to like click into the tab every time. So it's one page and um, there's a tab that gets loaded, and when that tab gets loaded, it it updates. And I mean when the it changes the the URL up here, which is great, right? And the reason I needed it was because I didn't want to waste time clicking all the time. But it's also really great to have these because you can then provide links to specific pages and stuff like that. Um, but so when we first built out to I like email.com voice API, things broke. And I was like, oh crap, okay, so we added this HT access page. And basically, I didn't really understand it. I just, um, um, ChatGPT just sort of put it together for me. But my understanding is I don't really, like I said, I don't really understand this, but it says that basically if it gets anything in this directory, in this voice directory, then automatically redirect it to index.html. And I don't know. I don't really don't rewrite existing files or directories. Um, and so yeah, who knows? Who knows what that does? But basically, I think at the end of the day, um, like if you take another step back, like when they initially rolled out the internet or public access to the internet, I guess the internet was a long time and like because I kind of first started using the internet probably like in 1994. I first started hearing about the internet like my dad in the late early 80s or late 70s, I'm not sure, used to talk about something called the super information highway, super super highway. Yeah, super information highway. And there's a movie called The Cable Guy, which is hilarious, where he actually uses that word. So that was sort of the original name of the internet, was the super information highway. And my dad used to talk about it all the time. And he was a electrical engineer. And so he would talk about it, and basically it was just for information. It wasn't really for like pictures and behaviors and stuff like that. And so the general, like they sort of built into the foundations of it that you had a server, and in your server, you had a directory structure. And then if somebody wanted access to something on that server, they would they had to know the directory structure on their side, and then they would ask for the item in the correct directory structure. And it was as simple as that, and it was pretty much just text. And then eventually people were like, well, we really need images, and then we really need, and it just kind of grew from there. But the foundational piece was that what was the browser knew to map its URL up here to the directory structure. And then that ended up being a problem in like the early 2000s because people didn't like having to reload the page every time you changed like the whole page. They just didn't like that. So there's this whole thing that they called Web 2.0 at the time, and that was supposed to, and that basically the whole idea of that was that you they didn't want the reload thing. And so they built that. They got that working. It's great. And so we came up with what I would call a hack like this to say, hey, in this situation, don't reload the whole page. Do um, just change the URL or just load what you want based on the user's button clicks. But then people realized, oh my gosh, you cannot give links to people. Like you basically like if you're like, oh, I want this person from HR to be able to update this employee's information, all you could tell them was you got to click, 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 click all these 20 different things so that you get to this user and employ and update it. And really what people wanted was the ability to just get a link to their ID and then go there and update it. So, that was a mistake. It was a huge mistake. The industry made that mistake. And so then they came up with this sort of routing thing, and it works pretty good, except for I guess there are some like I think the whole idea was like, well, you need to at least start at the root, and then once you're in the application, you can go to the to their to the right place, and then you'll have the right route up top. But like that really wasn't good enough either. We really needed to be able to for the server to redirect it to the application. And as you can see, like in ilikeemail.com, we use this sort of scheme. So basically, when the application asks for API, it actually returns what's on there. And then we don't have access to to like HTTP or anything like that. So for this GitHub IO, they did something themselves. And and that's fine. It works great. It is a little weird that we get this 404, but whatever, that it all works itself out and who cares. The problem is that somewhere between where the browser is and Angular is creating my URL for my videos and transpiling and all that, it's it's getting lost in the wash somehow. Somehow things are getting broken. And so that is sort of the thing that I was kind of thinking about, because like I was saying at the beginning, there's this book series called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, and one of the abstractions that they do a pretty good job in one of the later books talking about is like how there was it was a watch with the gears in it and all that, not a digital watch, but like this kind of watch where it's got hands and everything. And so they have all these gears and it's built to be able to tell time on Earth. But the people move to a different world and their hours are different than ours. So I don't know. I don't remember exactly what it is, but let's just say for argument's sake, it was like one day in their world is 23 and a half hours because of their position around the sun and all that. But um, this person has a watch that they don't even really know exactly where it came from. They knew that they got it from like a relative or something, but they, and it does 24 hours, so it's like a little longer than the watch that they have on this. So every morning the person has to set the watch. Um, and there's no real good way to like sort of refactor the watch to align with the current world's position. Like when the watch was built, all the gears were all designed for 60-minute hours for everything for our Earth. Well, that's kind of like what we run into here. We found some little like edge case where things just don't work the way it was originally expected to work. Like we want to do something that is slightly different and everything's just weird. So, anyways, the solution I kind of came up with was that I wanted to create like just use code to figure out what the link is supposed to be, and then just feed that link um, to the application. Now, typically, when you do something like this, you'd want to build like a generic solution that will work for all your links, but I literally only have one. And I never intend to do anything more with this application. And I don't even care. I don't even, I'm perfectly happy to even hard code the name of the file. So this is something I would never, ever, ever do at the beginning or in the middle of a project, but we're at the end of the project. So, it's just like, just get it done. There's no reason to waste any more time. So typically I would probably want to create like a service and in the service do that. But I noticed that I already have sort of some code that is aware in our app, and our app is always served. And in our app that is aware of the URL. So um, my guess is that this, if I remember, and I think we even dealt with an issue like this, um, but my guess is that if we if we build this out and we push it to ilikeemail.com, what we're going to see is that we have two paths, not one. So basically what we want to do is we want to generate, I'm going to console log, generate URL for um, the how-to video. Okay, so that's what we're gonna want to do, and we're actually gonna probably want to put a log here. And honestly, like I I only want to do it this way. The biggest reason I even care, like, it, is that I just want to be able to drop this. I want this project to be able to just be put in any web server and it just work. Um, Now, obviously, it's not going to just work if it's not on the root because, oh yeah, I just kind of thought of that. Because, well, it'll work at any GitHub or anything that's on the root, but it's not going to work if you push your own unless you update your HD access file and all that. So who knows what we should do with that? Like, yeah. And then one of the reasons I also wanted to delve into this is because in my other project that is sort of my long-term ride or die project that I'm just gonna do hopefully for the rest of my life. Um, that one I'm going to have to load a lot of things, and I'm gonna want routing in that. So I need to figure this I need to at least begin the figuring out of the best way to deal with something like this. But anyways, what we want it to be is whatever the parts are. We like Yeah, I don't know. We need a better comment than this too, but I'm also going to console log the parts, and then we're going to build out the uh, I build for ilikeemail.com. I really like one of the biggest reasons I sort of avoided building personal applications um, in TypeScript at all and Angular too for a long time was because to avoid this build process. It is so nice when you can just like push the pure code out. Um, and then one of the things that happened when let me just do this npm run iBuild. When I first started doing this is I used to always just consider like, it's no big deal if I lose my code base locally, like if I change computers or whatever, because I can always go out to FTP out and get the code back. But like in this situation, you can't because you can't reverse engineer this this code. So that was like kind of one of the things that changed for me. Guess I might as well get my FTP up and running too. I don't know why my computer is so slow to launch these FTP application anymore. But this is the after FileZilla is what I use. So here it is. And basically I'm going to do that off screen. I think there might be some, I'm going to do it down here. So I think it might, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to get like push out usernames and stuff like that, if at all possible. Um, let's see. I see that I have something for it. Connect. Okay. All right. So this got done building. It gave me a warning that it's gotten, I guess it wanted a 350 maximum. size, and it is 512, um, with a total of 862. So, um, I don't know. I think there's a pretty good way to like up the budget. Hopefully, I don't need to do that. Uh, but let's see. What I want to do now is see Voice API browser. So basically, my stuff's in here, and let's refresh. So I'm refreshing my left side. So that's what's on there. I do have some issues sometimes where I will um, refresh. I will go to the browser, go to the left. It'll load the list, and then I'll go to the right, and then it'll get very confused because it's got old. So I'm gonna on my right side. So on the server side, I'm just going to delete everything except for the HD access file. So it's important that I leave the HD access file up. And so now I think if we go here, we'll get like a, yeah, not found. And then hopefully we can load everything. And hopefully it just works. When it comes to these deployment sort of things, I just don't have a whole lot of experience with it. So it is always an adventure for me. Um, I really see. So that is what we're getting at GitHub, right? We get the 404, but then somehow it fixes it. All right, so now we're living large. We go to our console, and you see over here we get generate how-to video, and we have two parts, and that's this and voice. And so now if we come over here and we hit F12, go to our console and reload. Okay, so basically on this we get generate how-to video, and then we get nothing. So I think our video is supposed to be, so basically if the length is greater than 1, we want to do something with it, right? So I would imagine if we did the same thing instead of voice, and I think I remember this, we'll get Angular Web Speech Analyzer. So um, the next step is to add a little bit of logic and test. And so I'm moving slow through this, and this is exactly how I would do it, like in real life, like if I was doing this for a job, but it wouldn't take nearly as long because I would just be like flying through this. But since and the other thing is, if I was at a job, I probably need to somehow update my. I try to figure out how to update my configuration so that I'm on an end on another thing. But I don't think this would ever come up because I don't think I've ever worked in a place where we didn't work off the root when we deployed stuff. So, but basically, if parts is greater than 0, then we want to generate. I guess we need to know the domain. I think no matter what, we need to figure out what the full domain is so that we can create this. Um, so I don't know. So let's go ahead and console log our location out and see what's inside of our location. I feel like I'm definitely like in a Groundhog Day. Like there was a movie called Groundhog Day that came out, and I'm in that sort of mindset, right? Like where I know I've done all this stuff before, but location strategy. I don't see. So I guess we'll have to ask ChatGPT. Now in the past, this would have been like a Google search. I don't see how Google searches anymore. Like not dependent than ChatGPT. I think Google made a horrible mistake, like sort of well, I don't know, maybe it wasn't a mistake, but now they're going to have to back out because the problem is the biggest reason I use ChatGPT is because of the ads. Um, and then yeah, yesterday I was like blown away. Apparently, a lot of states are going to make laws in the United States that say you have to accept cash. It's so wild that you know that's even a thing. But anyways, so um, programming Angular, and I have injected the location service. Um, is there a way to determine the what is this thing called? Host. The host um, with the location service. Okay, but not from Angular. Yes, you can. I asked specifically about it. That's so funny. So they're saying the safest way is to get this document, inject the document. That's so funny. This is the first time I've seen them use. They always push me to put it in um, the constructor the way I did here, which I do prefer this uh, big time. Okay, so I think actually I'll be very interested if I just do this. I don't want to use a service. Oh, it doesn't go in the constructor though. And let's see where it wants to bring this from. I'm so curious. Angular Common, is that right? Yep, that is. Yep, that's right. Okay, Angular Common, and then all right. So let me do this. Host. Oh, I wonder. I don't think you have to. I think I can just use it since I'm in the constructor. And then that's so funny that it's called location in there. That's not going to be confusing. Host. Oh yeah, so this is what we want because it includes the port. Because we don't want to break it locally. And so let's go to F12. Okay, so that's our host, 4200. So the URL is going to be whatever the parts are. Um, all of the parts basically, except for the very first one. So I guess what we could do is we can just be like, so video URL is equal to, and it's funny that we have to say this video URL inside the constructor, but we don't have to say, oh no, we did have to say this document. And I guess location, what is this? See, why didn't we have to say this dot location? I'm guessing that would work though. Okay. It's equal to host So we know that. This is something I do so rarely that like it wouldn't surprise me if I botch this a few times before I get it right. Okay, and then uh, it's like parts. Okay, okay, I guess we should remove the very first thing from parts. Okay, remove the first item parts. Because, and again, this is probably something I would probably put it in its own directory. I mean, its own array just in case I ever want to use parts for something later. But I don't care because we're at the end of this thing. Um, so parts dot, I think is it pop removes the last one. I think it's unshift removes the very first one. Let's see, inserts new, oh no, shift. Removes the first element of an array and returns it. If the array is empty, it returns an undefined. Okay, so, and then I think we can just say like for parts dot for each, because we'll either have an empty array or that, and then I'll call it a part, which is a string, and we are going to give it this arrow function, and we're going to say that this dot video URL is equal to video URL plus. This is like very, very old school stuff that I remember I used to have to do crap like this all day long back in the early 2000s, especially like at CNN. We used to do this kind of stuff all day long. Um, and it's kind of funny because then, like, maybe 8 years later, a new batch of sort of young, brilliant developers with fancy degrees from fancy technical colleges, like they were just absolutely disgusted with this sort of coding, and then like our velocity, like the amount of stuff we could get done, just crawled to a stop, and then it got to where you just couldn't get anything done. Like they would basically have to bring in contractors to get anything done, and then the contractors would stay as long as they could stay before they just couldn't stand listening to the geniuses anymore, and then they would move on. It was really bizarre. Um, so then part. So basically, on every round, it's going to add a colon and that, and then um, at the very end, it's going to add this dot video URL is equal to this dot video URL plus another slash and the word how to, what's it called? Let's go look at the public folder real quick. How to use MP4. Now, I would expect in like most professional environments today that this would be highly frowned upon. And then I could say a 50-50 chance that they would come with some more abstract way of sort of just generating dynamically in a generic way um, paths, or possibly figure out a way to configure things so to work, or possibly spend months and months and months with the whole feature being blocked from moving forward until they finally give up and say, okay, fine, we'll do it this way. That's usually how that kind of thing plays out. All right, F12 and reload. Did I print out the URL? Maybe not. Could have sworn I did that. Oh, no, we don't. Okay. Console.log video URL, comma. And I can't even tell you how many times I've seen like this sort of solution, like people just building out like a solution like this and then never testing it and being like, oh, okay, this works. So I think that's right. I wonder, I guess I need the HTTPS. Oh, okay, so that's why. So that was funny because it did tell us what the port, how to get the port protocol. So I think we need the protocol too. I wonder, can I just say this dot protocol plus? I don't know if that's going to work. Let's look real quick. HTTP, I think it's supposed to be colon. Well, I don't see. Okay, so now let's just copy this. Okay, so
Hello,
that
everybody. I'm
worked.
trying to make.
There we go. And now that was good. So now let's go ahead and build this out. And then as soon as it's done building, delete everything at I like email. So I don't think we'll be doing anything more with that today. We won't finish this today, but because, and the main reason I'm not gonna finish this today is A, I don't want to spend that much time on this today, and B, I really do want time to kind of think through the wisdom of this. This is such a untrodden path for me. Okay, so I'm refreshing my left side, so my source. I'm deleting everything from my right side, which is the remote, except for htaccess. I'm leaving that. And let's go ahead and just make sure that we're not cached or something. Okay, and then upload everything. Reload. F12. Okay, did I not, why don't I have my, oh, it's so weird that HTTPS isn't like underlined. Ah, see, we need slashes. Wrong side. Isn't that weird that I did not
Hello,
need
everybody.
to
I'm
add
trying to make.
slashes when it was on local? So for this one, let's see, F12. I wonder if it will work without slash. Now I'm actually curious. What if you just do this? I definitely want to add slashes, but oh,
Hello, everybody.
so
I'm
it did
trying to make.
know how to do it, but I do think it would be better with two slashes on the front. Maybe, maybe not. Let's just do that. And again, like this is like, I cannot imagine this code being not just raising eyebrows like crazy in a production environment, in a real professional environment. So like you would definitely have to come up with some sort of abstraction or something to make this sort of code tolerable to um, the highly educated group of people. So like for me, it's kind of funny because in my career, I went to junior college and I want to say it was like 1992. Maybe I started in junior college like in 1988. So in 1988, I went to Valencia Community College in Orlando, Florida, and I took a computer I was thinking I would either want to be a computer programmer because I just really enjoyed programming computers, or I wanted to be an electrical engineer. I wasn't sure. And
Hello, everybody. I'm
okay, I
trying to.
like that. Um, but then I took one course and it was like I think it was Fortran 77, and it was such a shit show. It was like every single day we would every like I think we met like 5 days a week for like 6 weeks or something, and there would be like 30 of us jammed up in this little room, that was really designed probably for like 12 people. And we were all like shoulder to shoulder writing code, but only one computer could compile. So we would have to write our code, our Fortran code, put it on a floppy, and then go stand in line um, for and hand our floppy to the professor. And the professor would take a floppy of the very first person that came, plug it in, and then he would sit there and try to debug their code for the rest of the class. So basically, as soon as you stood up, if you weren't the very first person, you were you would just stand in line for the rest of the class, and then the next day, rinse and repeat. So I was just like, yeah, I don't want to do this. Um, so that's why I switched over and I ended up getting a degree in 1996, so 8 years later, from University of Central Florida in electrical engineering. Um, All right, so I think we pushed everything out. F12, reload. Oh no, I couldn't have pushed everything out because I didn't delete stuff and all that. All right, so first thing is refresh to the left. I can't believe how often I forget to refresh to the left. And boy, does that make for some weird ass, difficult to debug issues. Okay, then control. I deleted everything but the HTTP access, and now I'm uploading back to here. And I did not check to make sure that I don't have it, but that does look right.
Hello, everybody. I'm.
Okay, so that I think we have come up with a solution. So the next step is going to be to get rid of all these console logs, and basically down here in the code in the app component HTML, we're going to want to make this a dynamic. That's YouTube. Um, a dynamic link, like a source. And I don't even know if this is going to work. I hope it works like that. And then on this side, URL. What was it called? Video URL. So that is, it probably should be like how to video URL. So let me go back, and then I'm going to just call it a day. Because like I said, I do want a week to sort of think through the possible negative implications of this. How to um, and like I said, like a lot of times when I'm doing these videos, whatever I'm doing, I've done 1,000 times before. Like this shift thing, like I'm not going to put any thought as was this a good idea? Because I've just done that so many times that it just doesn't um, make sense. I mean, I just don't want, I just don't need to sit down and just sort of think through the implications of it. But I do think this is a very unusual thing that I'm doing. Never, I don't think I haven't had to do anything like this in this entire decade. Um, in 2020s, I don't even know that I ever did this in the 2010s. Something that, I used to have to do all of the time between 2000 and 2010. Like it was just a standard part of coding was like generating links and stuff like that dynamically. Um, and it's just like something I haven't had to do in a long time. And then the other problem, I think this is a bulletproof solution. Like I think it'll work no matter what. But whatever this issue is, um, whether it be in the browser, whether it be on the server, whatever is going on that is making me have to do this anyways, um, could very well get fixed by the browser manufacturers or by the browser coders or by the um, server coders. Who knows? Like I don't even know where the problem is, if I'm being completely honest. Um, so, anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye.